So, you've been told that your makeup focal point should either be your eyes or your lips. But what if neither suits you? If you've ever tried to follow along a glam or a bold makeup tutorial and found that the more makeup you put on yourself, the more you found yourself looking like this. And if you've ever wondered to yourself if makeup is just not for you at all, then keep watching this video. Because today I'm here to talk about the facial features that make certain people not suitable for bold eye makeup. Or just bold makeup, period. For these faces, the phrase less is more has never been more true. This video is part 2 of my series on makeup focal points, and if you haven't watched part 1, I'll link it up here for you to go watch it first before watching this video. I'll be making a lot of references to part 1, so you'll enjoy this video far more if you've watched part 1 first. As always, lots of tips and pointers along the way, and you should stay tuned till the end, because who else would give you these kinds of tips other than me? Alright, so let's start with talking about the features that make you unsuitable for bold eye makeup. From part 1 of the series, I briefly talked about a common feature that Taylor Swift and Dita Von Teese both have, and that's the shape of their eyes. More specifically, it's the shape of the outer corner of their eyes. With these kinds of eye shapes, the bottom outer corner tends to slope up quite drastically. When you look at these close-ups and focus on the bottom outline of the eyes, you'll notice how steep the angle from the middle of the eyes to the outer corner is. And the bottom outer corner just kind of slopes up right into the eyeline. It'll be easy to spot the difference in angles when you compare these eyes to Kristen Stewart's or BB Rexha's eyes. I'm using Kristen and BB as comparisons because both their eyes can handle bold eye makeup really well. Now, because of the shape of the outer corners, we tend to see less white area in their eyes. And what that means is that putting a lot of makeup, especially on the bottom of the eyes, like filling in the waterline with a dark eyeliner, for example, can easily make these eyes look smaller because we're reducing the size of the whites in their eyes even further. If you compare these two photos, you can see how Taylor's eyes look smaller in the left photo. With these kinds of eyes, you can actually still wear a heavier style of eye makeup on the top lids. You just need to be careful with how much makeup you use on the bottom part around the waterline. So I've looked through a lot of photos of Taylor while making this video, right? And Taylor actually does wear bold eye makeup quite well. But even with bolder eyes, she doesn't really fill in her waterline at all, or she uses white eyeliner instead of a dark color on her waterline to visually increase the size of the whites in her eyes. Same goes for Dita. She wears pretty thick liquid eyeliner and heavy false lashes as part of her signature pinup girl look, but you'll notice that Dita's eye makeup is almost always pretty light in the bottom. So with these eye shapes, it's not so much that they can't wear bold eye makeup at all, but the style of the makeup just needs to be a little more carefully chosen. Another reason why you might find that bold eye makeup just looks a little overwhelming on you is if you have a lighter or more subtle crease line. I think a lot of my East Asian sisters out there, if you're watching, can relate to this. Because typically speaking, East Asians either have monoliths, which makes it very difficult for the eye makeup to show regardless of the amount of eye makeup you actually use. Or even if we don't have monoliths, we tend to have lighter crease lines that are more subtle. And the distance from the eyeline to the crease line is generally pretty narrow. Let me use the retired figure skating queen Yuna Kim as an example. Yuna has a very subtle crease line. It's so subtle that it almost looks like she has monoliths, and some people might argue that she does, but depending on the angles or how she opens her eyes, her crease line either appears or disappears. During her skating days, she actually used to wear heavier eye makeup for her performances because it's essentially like stage makeup. And with the bolder eye makeup, her crease line almost completely disappeared, and we can see how the makeup doesn't really let us see her eyes. But in more recent photos, her eye makeup has gotten a lot lighter, and her face just looks brighter overall. Some of you might argue that this is just dependent on your personal preference, and I don't disagree with that, but let me just share my experiences and thoughts. I used to wear heavy eye makeup in my 20s because I thought that's what everyone was doing and that's what made me look better. Looking back, I don't know what I was thinking. I actually look much better and I prefer much natural looking makeup styles because one, I don't have the features that can pull off bold makeup looks, and two, I just like how it makes me feel a lot like myself and I don't feel like I'm trying to hide my features. So it's a preference thing at the end of the day, but if you've ever tried the ABG look or a heavier eye makeup style and it just didn't feel quite right on you, a more natural style is always an option. Now, this is not to say that all Asians need to wear less eye makeup. Celebrities like Fan Bingbing has big eyes with a very defined crease line, and these kinds of faces can actually pull off bold eye makeup very, very well. Here's where things become more interesting. What if you have multiple features that limit you from wearing both bold eyes and bold lips? Let me use Renee Zellweger as an example. The shape of Renee's eyes are similar to Taylor and Dita, where we naturally see less of the whites in her eyes. On top of that, Renee also has hooded eyes, so the distance from the eye line to the crease line is very, very narrow. It's so narrow to the point where it kind of looks like she has monoliths. And too much eye makeup on hooded eyes can make the eyelids appear bulgy or swollen. So with eyes like Renee, we really don't have much playroom when it comes to eye makeup, either on the top or the bottom sections of her eyes. On top of that, Renee actually has all three factors that I've talked about in part 1 that makes her unsuitable for bold lips. She has a muted color palette, so a bright, strong color like red can easily look overwhelming on her. She also has a narrow mouth, and she has a bit of a unique shape to her lips, which naturally draws more attention. So a color that pops like red will draw too much attention to the lower part of her face. So with these kinds of faces like Renee's, it's better to avoid putting emphasis on either the eyes or the lips. But instead, one alternative is to make the cheeks the focal point of the makeup look, and Renee does this very often. Rosy and flushed cheeks have actually always been a part of Renee's look. So even though bold eyes or lips are not really suitable for faces like Renee, just adding some healthy glow and a bit of color to the skin can really make the face look a lot more lively, and it'll prevent the face from looking washed out. And the natural aesthetic of this kind of makeup style can add a level of elegance to your look as well. So here is a summary of tips for today. If the bottom outer corner of your eyes tend to slope up drastically, avoid putting a lot of emphasis on the bottom waterline in order to prevent your eyes from looking smaller. If you have subtle crease lines or hooded eyes, heavier eye makeup can look unnatural and can make your eyes look bulgy. If you have multiple features that make you unsuitable for both bold eyes or lips, try emphasizing the healthy glow on your skin and cheeks for a more natural and elegant look. Alright, so that wraps up the series on makeup focal points. I hope you guys found it informative and helpful, and if you did, please take a moment to press those like and subscribe buttons. And like I said, I'll be starting a new series pretty soon on personal color palettes, so if you're interested in that, make sure to turn on your notifications for the next new video on my channel. Until next time, stay unique and stay gorgeous!